Picture this: a medieval shepherd, his hands coated in a thick golden grease as he finishes shearing a sheep. His palm glistens not from oil or lotion, but from the natural substance he's unknowingly holding. A powerful grease that would protect him from rainstorms. This grease, lanolin, was a medieval miracle. It wasn't just a product of nature, it was a vital tool for survival. Without it, sailors might have drowned, explorers could have frozen, and everyday people would have struggled through winter storms. Today, we've got waterproof jackets, rain gear, and Gore-Tex, but the medieval world had to rely on their own resourcefulness, and the solution was hiding right there in plain sight. Let's uncover how lanolin, nature's raincoat, kept medieval people dry through some of the toughest storms. It all started in the fields, not in a fancy laboratory or a chemistry set. Shepherds, while working with raw wool, started noticing something peculiar. After weeks of handling fleece, their tunics began to repel water. Rain wouldn't soak through, it would bead up and roll off, leaving the fabric dry. At first they thought this was just dirt and grime building up in the fabric. But as time passed, the real reason became clear. The lanolin secret. Lanolin, a waxy substance naturally secreted by the sebaceous glands of wool follicles, was the sheep's built-in weatherproofing. In the same way human skin produces oils to protect itself, sheep use lanolin to keep their wool dry and insulating, even in icy downpours. The shepherds, without knowing the science behind it, realized they could capture this gift of nature and use it to make their clothes waterproof. Lanolin wasn't just an animal fat, it was evolutionary brilliance. This substance melts between 38 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius, just above human body temperature. What does that mean? It stays solid in the cold, creating a barrier to keep water out, but when warmed, it softens and spreads evenly across fabric, keeping it waterproof without ruining its flexibility. Medieval shepherds didn't have advanced chemistry to explain this, but they didn't need to. They observed the results. Lanolin stayed flexible in the cold, didn't crack like some oils, and resisted both rain and snow. This wasn't just some oddity. It was nature's own waterproofing system, and shepherds were the first to tap into it, using it in everything from clothes to tools. But not all sheep were equally efficient when it came to producing lanolin. Over the years, shepherds began to notice that certain breeds, especially the fine-wooled sheep, like the ancestors of the merino, produced much more grease. Some fleeces could yield as much as 30% lanolin by weight, which equated to 250 to 300 milliliters from a single sheep. Through trial and error, shepherds began selectively breeding flocks with higher lanolin output. This wasn't just about meat or milk, it was about survival. By ensuring they had enough lanolin every shearing season, they could waterproof everything: cloaks, boots, leather, even their tools. This was a self-sustaining system. No trade deals, no imports. Just local knowledge and biological resource management that lasted for generations. Harvesting lanolin wasn't a simple task. It required skill and careful handling. The greasiest wool came from the shoulders and sides of the sheep, where it had endured the most exposure to weather. After the sheep were sheared, the wool was carefully sorted, with the greasiest tufts set aside for waterproofing. Then the wool was soaked in near-boiling water, often with soaps or ash-based detergents to release the lanolin without destroying the fibers. Medieval people didn't have thermometers, but they could judge the water temperature by touch, or the steam density and the faint smell of lanolin being released into the air. Once the wool was thoroughly soaked, the water was left to cool, and the precious lanolin would rise to the surface like liquid gold. As the water cooled, the lanolin solidified, and it was then skimmed off with wooden spoons, filtered through cloth and collected into sticky, olive-green lumps. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. This raw lanolin was then used to coat clothing, leather, and even tools, creating a natural barrier that kept water out for months. In a world where modern waterproof fabrics didn't exist, this was as close to magic as you could get. Nature providing a sustainable, self-replenishing solution to one of humanity's most basic needs. Staying dry. Lanolin didn't stop at clothing. It was soon applied to boots, belts, and even saddles. ensuring they remained flexible even through wet winters. Iron tools coated in lanolin could resist the relentless rusting caused by the damp medieval climate. The lanolin created a protective shield, ensuring that expensive equipment didn't degrade. Tents, ropes, and storage sacks were also treated with lanolin, creating an impenetrable waterproof barrier. For soldiers, travelers, and even farmers, this simple application could preserve food, protect valuable goods, and keep supplies dry. In the harsh conditions of the medieval world, this was life-saving technology. The fascinating part about lanolin is that medieval people unknowingly mastered the process that modern chemistry still uses today. They didn't have lab equipment, but they had iron cauldrons, patience, and the most important test of all, the ability to step out into a rainstorm and see if their clothes held up. The heating, emulsifying, and cooling processes they used to extract lanolin are still part of the modern chemistry textbook. The trial and error methods they employed, though lacking advanced scientific understanding, were based on something more valuable: real-world application and direct experience. While raw lanolin worked wonders, it wasn't always refined for cosmetic or delicate skin uses. In households where it was needed for healthier skin or even for preserving fine fabrics, medieval families developed their own quality control processes. This wasn't as simple as just collecting the lanolin and slathering it on whatever needed protection. Oh no, medieval people weren't just making random batches, they were mastering the process of purification. The lanolin was heated multiple times, which caused the heavier, gritty residue to separate from the cleaner, more pure lanolin. It would float to the surface like golden wax, ready for use in cosmetics, skincare, and fine cloth care. This refining process was delicate, with multiple heating and cooling cycles to separate impurities from the treasure. The cleaner lanolin could be used for winter skin protection, to keep cracked hands and chapped lips from the biting cold. Meanwhile, the rougher stuff was reserved for more utilitarian purposes, like boot waterproofing, saddles, and tents, things that needed to survive the harsh elements. Now imagine this. While we're living in a world of easy, mass-produced products, these medieval families were essentially creating specialized goods from scratch. No factories, no automated systems, just raw craftsmanship passed down through generations. The quality control they practiced was hands-on, a perfect blend of artisanal work and functional use that would be the envy of any modern DIYer today. Want to know something cool? Making your own lanolin isn't just a thing of the past. It can still be done today. If you were to try it yourself, you'd find that the process remains remarkably simple and surprisingly effective. You only need a few basic ingredients: 2 to 3 pounds of wool, a large pot of near-boiling water, some mild soap, and a bit of patience. Here's where it gets interesting. When you apply that homemade lanolin to fabric, you get the same effect medieval people relied on. Water beads off your coat like a protection shield. Even though modern waterproof gear may be faster to make, there's something deeply satisfying about using this time-tested natural method. You can create something that's not only effective but also sustainable, with no need for synthetic chemicals or plastic coatings. And it's not just about the DIY pride of creating something yourself. There's an entire philosophical connection to nature when you engage in this kind of craft. Today, we live in a world that relies heavily on plastic and synthetic materials, but making your own lanolin is a return to simpler times where every material came from something real and natural. It's about reconnecting with the world and learning from the self-sufficiency of past generations. Imagine being able to rely on nature's gift to stay dry, without worrying about harmful chemicals or contributing to environmental degradation. It's not just about nostalgia, it's about practicality and understanding the value of things that sustain and protect us in the long run. Lanolin didn't just save lives in medieval times, it redefined survival. From sailors braving the open seas to farmers facing winter storms, lanolin was more than a simple waterproofing agent. It was a lifeline. And today, we still have the power to reclaim that knowledge, connecting us with nature's time-tested solutions. If this story sparked your interest in ancient ingenuity and the powerful ways nature can provide, Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories from history. Let's dive deeper into the past and discover more of the lost knowledge that can shape our future. Who knows? The next big discovery might be hiding just under our feet, waiting to be rediscovered. Stay tuned.